I'm going to be a little sarcastic here, no offense, but as she is droning on and providing too much data on what she thinks the problem is, and she's talking very much in the social emotional area, there's two problems that's going on with him. One, you're not speaking his language, and so he's out of the loop with what you're talking about and not quite getting it, and he knows he's not getting it. So he feels dumb. And then because he's not getting it as quickly as you want him to get it, you may have chastised him or scolded him or talked to him about how he's falling short, how he doesn't validate, doesn't listen, he's not empathic, and so on. He's not reciprocal in the emotional sense. So now he feels attacked. So you have the guy over here who now feels dumb and he feels attacked. And this causes a lot of anxiety. That's point 3. Causes a lot of anxiety. And so what would he want to do when these conversations pretty much at this point always cause anxiety? He's going to want to reduce his anxiety. How does he reduce his anxiety? Well, that's either going to be a meltdown or a temper tantrum or a shutdown, or he's just going to sit there and look at you and pretend like he's listening in hopes that you will shut up here shortly. But unfortunately, your message gets lost. It didn't go in one ear and out the other. It didn't even go in the one ear. Because as he's sitting here giving you the impression that he's listening, he's off in fantasy land over here. He's fishing or he's skiing or he's worrying about what he's going to have to do at work tomorrow. He's not even in the room. But you think he's there, so you keep talking. That is the main thing that I run into, is the communication breakdown. And I just kind of explained a gross oversimplification, I understand, and it even sounded a little critical. The reason for the communication breakdown is because she's coming at it from one angle and he's not getting it from that angle. And so that causes problems for him because now he feels like I don't get it. And when I don't get it, I get in trouble. So he wants to talk less and less and less and less. And he goes further and further. And he gets to the point where he dreads having the talk. We got to have a talk. He's instantly anxiety before you've even got 2 words out of your mouth. Having said all of that, what one of the main goals should be, it may or may not be one of the main goals in this group, depending on what you guys need. But one of the main goals should be, in my opinion, is to find a communication strategy such that you guys can actually talk about difficult stuff. How many of you in here have even given up about talking about difficult stuff? Because it always ends like a shit show. And this is a little message to spouses on the autism spectrum who are easily offended and download even neutral comments from their NT spouse as criticism. So here's a few questions. Do you frequently feel offended by the remarks or actions of your NT spouse? Do you take every minor event too seriously, allowing it to scare you or piss you off? Do you mistake your NT spouse's antics for subtle insults? You know what? Taking things too personally makes life very difficult. When you take things too personally, you make yourself more vulnerable to anger, frustration, and meltdowns and shutdowns. Taking things too personally is like intentionally placing a heavy load on your shoulders. Why would you want to do that? Here's what I've discovered. Most of the time, the way somebody acts towards me has little to do with me. In some cases, has nothing to do with me. It's more to do with how this person was raised, how he or she deals with emotional issues, or other variables like his or her mood, energy level, or health, or maybe that person is just having a bad day. This is important for me to keep in mind on those occasions when I find myself taking blame for things that are beyond my control. Perhaps you would want to do the same. What's really confusing to him is when she says how she feels, and she leaves it there. And he's supposed to take how she feels and figure out some course of action he's supposed to implement based on that feeling. That never gets done. And then she feels, what, that selfish bastard? And he's going, I guess I'm supposed to learn how to read her feelings and read her mind because I'm always doing this guesswork. And then I get in trouble for not knowing. So sometimes I don't ask because I'm afraid as soon as I ask, I've revealed myself as an idiot who was supposed to get it and didn't get it. She would say, I'm just using a generic she, at the top of her list, she might say, I have an intimacy deficit on her scorecard. If we were to look at the ASD man scorecard, the number one thing on his card would be, I don't get any appreciation. So ladies, your intimacy deficit, if we wanted to come up with the counter version for him, that's his appreciation deficit. I think it would go without saying that the more appreciation expressed, probably the more intimacy you would get. If you have a spouse with ASD level 1, you may have a spouse who's very logic-oriented. This individual needs to know the reasons for the rules before he's okay. Blindly accepting your rules is not the way he operates. He wants to know the reasons behind your actions, why something is done a certain way, and it has to make sense to him. If it seems too arbitrary, it's not an adequate reason in his mind, and he won't listen. His coping strategy is to try to make sense of the world through logic, reasoning, and rational thought. He wants the world to be a place with order and rationality to it. This reduces his anxiety. He will usually become more flexible when he knows the reason for something. The rule alone is not sufficient. After you've explained the reason for your request, you are likely to get more cooperation from him. However, he may not accept your logic unless it is quite convincing, because he may very well have his own reasons and explanations. His view of the world is based on logic and reasons, which can also cause him to be overly analytical. In this case, he often can't function appropriately because he never gets past the analysis stage to the action stage. We could say that in this case, he suffers from analysis paralysis. So what is the NT spouse to do? You will need to explain why something needs to be done or why it can't be done before you'll get compliance. For the logic-oriented individual, understanding precedes cooperation. If your explanations provide him with information he didn't have, might have overlooked, or didn't understand, you will have helped him clarify how desired action is beneficial to him. Now, for those who overanalyze, you'll have to help him reduce the amount of analysis by helping him see how it is unproductive. So now let's look at the rule-oriented individual with ASD level 1. Rule-oriented. Having a set of rules to live by is the most important issue for this individual. If there is a void where a rule has not been established, the rule-oriented individual is not happy because he doesn't know what to do in that situation. And since he doesn't know what to do, he makes up his own rules. And any situation that has too few rules will be a bad one for this type of person. He must have rules to live by, and he will create his own if there aren't any available. And his rules will probably not match what others are thinking. Also, this person tends to respect authority figures and does well when it's perfectly clear who's in charge and who makes the rules. This person will tend to do very well at work, but can be a real problem at home because the rules are not clear enough at home. It's not unusual for the NT spouse of this type of individual to be quite surprised to hear how well he does at work and gets along with everybody and can be conversational and might even be the smartest person at work, but then at home it's as if he shifts to a different personality. This individual will become distressed by others who do not follow the rules. He may monitor others' actions and will remind them what they're doing wrong and can sometimes come off as being the rule police. But bear in mind that this behavior is all about anxiety reduction. The rule-oriented individual manages his anxiety by following the rules and making sure others do too. And problems only occur for them when rules are absent or vague, or the person in charge lacks authority in their eyes.